take a look at this video here. Parts of Culiacan have been besieged, the cartel burning vehicles there and setting roadblocks in an apparent effort to intercept Guzman. They even attacked the city's main airport after a bullet struck an Air Mexico plane. Passengers took cover on board. Authorities eventually had to ground that flight.
Being a cop in Mexico has to be among the most difficult jobs in the world. In fact, it's just like walking on a tightrope. You have to find a striking balance between doing your job and offending the cartels, because one wrong move could cost you your life. Sadly, this was the case for Eduardo Triana Sandoval, a 32-year-old state law enforcement officer who was fired 155 times by unknown gunmen outside a shopping center in Culiacan, Sinaloa, on November 6, 2019. Sandoval was not just a random victim of this senseless act of violence. He was a key player in the failed attempt to arrest Ovidio Guzmán López, the son of the notorious narco lord Joaquín El Chapo Guzman, who was captured and released by the military in a chaotic operation that sparked a warlike assault by the Sinaloa Cartel. But what was Sandoval's role in this operation, and how did he get caught up in this horrific mess? Let's explore the heartbreaking story of Eduardo Triana Sandoval, the cop who lost his life for his role in the arrest of El Chapo's son. The Secretary of Public Security of the state regrets the death of a member of the state police, Eduardo, who lost his life this Wednesday in the capital of Sinaloa. That was the vague official statement issued by the Office of the Mexican Secretary of Public Security following the brutal murder of Officer Eduardo Triana Sandoval. Anyway, the spokesman also added that they were in solidarity with the family and friends of the fallen officer. You see, Sandoval was not just an ordinary cop. He was described by his colleagues and superiors as a dedicated, loyal, and courageous officer who always went out of his way to serve his country. He was part of an elite unit of state law enforcement that was assigned to protect the Undersecretary of Public Security, a high-ranking official in charge of the state's security affairs. He was also part of the Rapid Intervention Group, GIR, a special force that dealt with high-risk situations and emergencies. His death was not a random act of violence, but a possible retaliation for his involvement in a daring operation that captured one of the most wanted criminals in the world, Ovidio Guzmán López, the son of the notorious narco lord, El Chapo. Sandoval was in his early 30s when he lost his life, leaving behind a promising career that started just in 2013. He was known for his bravery and dedication to his duty, always willing to serve and protect. He was among the few who dared to confront the powerful and ruthless narco cartels that terrorized the state. But his courage came at a very high cost. In October 2019, a month before his death, he took part in a risky mission that aimed to arrest Ovidio Guzmán López, the leader of the Sinaloa Cartel and the heir of El Chapo's criminal empire. This mission turned into a nightmare, as the cartel unleashed a fierce resistance that forced the military to release Ovidio and retreat. The incident sparked a wave of violence and chaos in the city, and obviously triggered a vendetta against Sandoval and some of his colleagues who also got caught up in this horrific mess. But what exactly happened on that fateful day, and what role did Sandoval play in it to deserve this level of brutality from the Sinaloa Cartel? Let's take a closer look at the events that led to the capture and release of Ovidio Guzmán López and the tragic aftermath that followed. On October 17, 2019, the Mexican military launched a covert operation to capture the two Guzman brothers, Ovidio Guzmán López and Iván Archibaldo Guzmán Salazar, who were wanted by the United States for illegal substance trafficking and other crimes rackets. They had been tracking their movements for months and finally located them at a house in Culiacan, the capital of Sinaloa. The plan was to arrest Ivan first and then move on to Ovidio. But things didn't go as planned. Ivan somehow got wind of the raid and escaped before the soldiers could reach him. He then quickly gathered his loyal sicarios and prepared them to defend his brother at all costs. He knew that the military would not stop at him and that they were going next for his brother, Ovidio. And boy, was he right, because within minutes, a squad of elite troops surrounded Ovidio's house and engaged him and his men in a fierce gun battle. Ovidio tried to resist, but he soon realized that he was outgunned and outnumbered. So, he made the wise decision to drop his weapon and surrender. I imagine Ovidio must have thought that this was going to be the end of the road for him, because he couldn't have counted on how far his brother would be willing to go to make sure he was not captured that day. But Ivan was not going to let his brother go without a fight. So, he ordered his sicarios to unleash hell on Culiacan until Ovidio was freed. They set up roadblocks, burned dozens of vehicles, attacked planes at local airports, and freed about 49 inmates from the local prison. Within hours, Culiacan was transformed into a war zone, and the sicarios had one clear message for the government:
release Ovidio, or your men will keep dying.
And these guys were playing around because after several hours of this fierce gun battle between the Mexican troops and the cartel sicarios, 8 officers and 1 civilian lay dead, while several others were severely injured. Others were abducted and held hostage. The cartel even imposed a curfew on the city and warned that anyone who violated it would be sent on an immediate journey to the afterlife. Meanwhile, the authorities had tried to calm the situation by forcing Ovidio to call his brother and ask him to stop the violence. But Ovidio's words fell on deaf ears as Ivan ignored his pleas to stop the chaos. He was determined to get his brother back at all costs. It was at this point that the authorities decided to count their losses and finally give in. The Mexican president, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, announced that he had ordered the release of Ovidio and the withdrawal of the military. He claimed that this decision was made to protect the lives of the civilians and the soldiers. But to many people, this was a show of shame and weakness. I mean, it won't be out of place to wonder if the government had any control over the country, because as it seems, the masses and even the government themselves are all at the mercy of the cartels who can go however far it takes to get whatever they want. Anyway, on the day of Ovidio's attempted arrest, Officer Sandoval was not scheduled to work. Nonetheless, he decided to show up at the State Police Command Center when he heard the news of this major operation that was taking place in the city. According to official accounts, Sandoval wasn't directly involved in the arrest of Ovidio Guzmán López, but he was on lookout duty, and he did travel to the prison, where it was said that inmates had escaped. Later that day, he also accompanied the chief to the Aguaruto Penitentiary, local prison from where the inmates escaped. Much later, he joined a unit that was sent to various areas of Culiacan, where the cartel gunmen were patrolling the streets. Sandoval was just one of many other officers who risked their lives to restore order and protect the civilians on the day of this attack. Now let's fast forward to Wednesday, 6th November 2019. About 3 weeks after Ovidio's failed arrest attempt, Sandoval had just finished his shift at about 7 p.m. 15 minutes later, he recorded this video in his car that captured what would be his last moments before driving to a nearby mall where he was presumably going to do some shopping or meet someone. Video from a nearby CCTV camera showed the moment the officer pulled in white sedan car. Almost immediately, another red sedan followed and pulled up beside him. Within seconds, 2 armed men jumped out of the red sedan and opened fire at his car while he was still inside. These men reportedly discharged at least 150 rounds of bullets on the officer's car before speeding away. And you know, of course, no one would survive that hell of a bullet, not even if they were dressed in a bulletproof suit. The whole attack lasted less than 30 seconds, but it was enough to end the life of this brave law enforcement officer. Following this attack, it was widely believed that Triana Sandoval's murder was a retaliation by the Sinaloa Cartel for his role in the events of October 17th. The cartel is known for its ruthless and vengeful tactics against anyone who interferes with their business or challenges their authority. They have murdered countless law enforcement officers, judges, journalists, and even innocent civilians over the years. They have also targeted the family members of their enemies, as they did with the son of a former cartel member who testified against El Chapo in his 2019 trial in the US. Triana Sandoval was not the first, neither will he be the last victim of the cartel's violence. But in this case, Ovidio Guzman would pay dearly for it. In 2021, the US and Mexican authorities declared war on the Sinaloa Cartel. They offered huge rewards for the capture of its top leaders. $5 million for each of the sons of Joaquín El Chapo Guzman, known as the Los Chapitos, and $15 million for Ismael El Mayo Zambada, the co-founder and current boss of the cartel.
In 2021, the State Department had offered a $5 million reward for any information that led to Ovidio Guzman's arrest. And tonight, U.S. officials say his capture is a significant blow to the Sinaloa Cartel.
But the Los Chapitos, especially Ovidio and Ivan, seemed to enjoy the attention. They didn't hide or lay low. Instead, they continued to flaunt their extravagant lifestyle on social media, boasting about their gold-plated weapons, stacks of money, and fancy cars.
Chapo's apparent #1 son doesn't hide his narco world affluence. As we've reported, he posts video of his expensive fleet of sports cars, private planes, and the trail of cash that has made him a top target of federal agents in Chicago.
It was more like they were taunting the authorities and daring them to do their worst. But they should have known better to keep a low profile and learnt from their father, who spent most of his life on the run or in prison. Well, they obviously didn't. And that was their downfall, which came 4 years after Ovidio's last arrest attempt in 2019. During this period, the DEA and the Mexican government worked together to track down Ovidio once again and prepared for a decisive strike in January 2023. On the morning of January 5th, a team of 200 elite soldiers and agents surrounded a safe house in Culiacan, the capital of Sinaloa, where Ovidio was hiding. They stormed the building and captured him within a few minutes, without a single gunfire. Mission accomplished. The operation was a successful and flawless one. But as the news of his arrest got out, all hell broke loose as the cartel unleashed another wave of violence across the city, attacking security forces and civilians alike.
But his arrest didn't come without chaos. The cartel reacted violently by setting vehicles on fire, blocking major roads out of the city, and even opening fire on a military plane as it was arriving at the airport, forcing passengers inside this commercial flight to duck for cover.
They blocked the roads as they did in 2019, set fire to vehicles, and freed dozens of prisoners. They even stormed the airport and opened fire at an Aeromexico aircraft with passengers on board.
Ovidio Guzman, the son of the infamous crime and drug lord known as El Chapo, was taken into custody early morning in Culiacan, Mexico, home to the Sinaloa Cartel. The prominent cartel leader is believed to have played a role in drug trafficking and the production of fentanyl, which has made its way through the southern border in record amounts, enough to kill every person in America.
It was a bloodbath, and in a matter of minutes, 29 people were dead, including 10 law enforcement officers. But no matter how many more people they would go on to murder, the authorities would not be intimidated and cajoled into letting him go again this time like they did in 2019. Ovidio Guzman was ultimately arrested on January 5th, 2023, and transported by a military helicopter to Altiplano prison, the same high-security prison in Mexico that his father had escaped from twice. 8 months later, on September 15th, the Mexican government extradited him to the United States. As he flew over the border, I imagine he would probably be wondering what would become of him from there. I mean, his father is already locked up in the most secure prison in America, the ADX Florence Supermax. Would he join him there? Or does a different fate await him? Well, the truth is, no one knows for sure. His case is still ongoing, and the outcome is uncertain. But if he ends up in the same prison as his father, he shouldn't expect any happy family reunion, because he won't even get to see his father. The Supermax is a place of isolation and misery, where inmates spend 23 hours a day in solitary cells, with no human contact. They are shackled and monitored at all times, even during their 1 hour of exercise. They eat alone, and they only get to socialize with other prisoners in the last 3 years of their sentence. But for El Chapo, who got a life sentence, and Ovidio, who could get one too, that privilege will never come. Do you think Ovidio's eventual arrest and incarceration serve as any form of justice for the death of Officer Eduardo Triana Sandoval? Please feel free to share your thoughts with us in the comments below. And if you have enjoyed this video, please do well to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Thank you for watching, guys. Until next time, please stay safe.